Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on DFE News. News done right. I'm Jeff Kirk. A lot's happening in the news. Let's get right to it. The big story continues to be the flash flooding and loss of life in Texas as rescue groups continue their operations in the region. The flash flooding over the 4th of July holiday, mainly surrounding the Guadalupe River in Kerr County, Texas, has so far resulted in 84 deaths in the county, 28 of which are children, and over 100 deaths statewide. Especially heartbreaking is the loss at Camp Mystic, a historic all-girls Christian camp in Hunt, Texas, where 27 campers and counselors are confirmed to have died, including longtime camp director and co-owner Dick Eastland, who was swept away by the floodwaters even as he was lifting young campers to safety. Camp Mystic reports 10 campers and 1 counselor are still missing, and search and recovery operations are ongoing. Many use the event as an opportunity to bash the Trump administration for cutting funding to the National Weather Service and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. ABC News host George Stephanopoulos said there were significant staffing shortfalls to the NWS offices in the region, but NWS officials say they were able to issue timely forecasts and warnings before and during the emergency, and even had more staff than usual on duty over the weekend due to the increased threat. We continue to pray for all those affected by this unimaginable tragedy, for the individuals involved in search and rescue operations, and all those working to provide aid. Joining us now to talk about first response actions is Shannon Balvans, a battalion chief in El Paso County, Colorado. Shannon, thank you for taking time to speak with us today.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you for having me.
So, Shannon, as a first responder, you've personally seen situations like this before. Can you tell us what was your reaction when you first heard about the flooding in Texas?
I was overly heartbroken for the people of Kerr County and for the first responders, knowing how fast that the water rose from the reports on the news, that the first responders were going to be overwhelmed with 911 emergency calls, and that they were going to have to quickly choose who to go and get by triaging the calls, and that there was going to be a loss of life.
So, Shannon, a personal question. Have you ever been on the scene where there has been loss of life? How hard is that on a responder, especially when there's children involved?
Loss of life is really hard for a first responder when children are involved. 25 years in the fire service, and I've had over 12 pediatric deaths that I have ran on, and it's the most traumatizing and heartbreaking event that a first responder can go on.
And so, are there support mechanisms in place for responders who have to deal with that type of trauma?
Every fire agency or first responder agency is different, but there's things called critical incident stress debriefings, where a group of people will come out and talk to the fire departments that have gone through that tragedy and first responders. There's also EAP programs, which are programs put in place where first responders can call a hotline basically and talk to a counselor right then and there. There's also peer support teams that have become popular, where your people in your agency are actually trained in therapy and psychology from a trained professional to help the people in your department.
That's good news. So obviously, as a firefighter, you have to be prepared for any type of situation, any type of natural disaster. Being in Colorado, probably not as much with the flash flooding that we're seeing in Texas now, but what types of equipment would a fire department typically have on hand to maintain to be ready for a situation such as this?
So in a swift water situation like this, they're going to have wetsuits or dry suits to be able to get in the water if need be. They're going to have life safety rope, throw bags, and different throwing devices that they can throw to victims in need. One of the things they teach you when you're going through water training is reach, row, throw, and go. So they'll always try and reach first, throw a bag or a rope to them, or lastly, go. They're also going to have different kinds of boats that they're going to be able to get on the water to try and get to people. They'll have personal flotation devices or life jackets. And then in the counties may have helicopters. They'll use drones also to go downstream or upstream to be able to see if there's people floating or hung up somewhere that they need to go and rescue them.
So when situations like this occur, do first responders need any type of authorization prior to departing, or is it more of a just to get there immediately type of a situation?
Yeah, so the calls are going to come in through 911 and they're going to be dispatched by their local dispatch agency, whether that's through their county or a private dispatch company that they use. And they're going to respond to the call. They're going to get to the call and they're going to do a size up of the situation. If it's larger or depending on how they have things set up, they might have automatic aid coming to assist them right away, which is they automatically get paged out the same time that you do. And then they'll have mutual aid where they can reach out to the neighboring agencies and ask them to come and assist them. Once it gets bigger than what they can handle in that incident, they'll set up an incident management team that they have either locally or in the county through their Office of Emergency Management. Once they've set that up and turned basically the incident over to the Office of Emergency Management in their county, if it is larger than what the county can handle, the county will turn it over to the states. In this instance, they turn it over to the state of Texas. And then the state of Texas, if they don't have the resources to continue, they can ask for federal assistance, whether that's through money or they can ask for urban search and rescue teams that can come in from the state of Texas and throughout the country.
So for that coordination, does that typically occur smoothly, or you mentioned the handing over to a higher authority? Does that typically go well, or have you seen problems occur when they try to pass over authority as well?
For the most part, in instances like this, where would like to assume that they've trained for an instance like this, they have it all set up. The transfer usually goes smoothly. They usually have a unified command set up between the fire department, the police department, and everybody's working and talking together to know where resources are at. And they're going to want to hand it over quickly also, because the quicker they hand it over, the sooner they can get the state resources to come in and help them instead of trying to manage it just locally by themselves.
So one of the terms that we're hearing recently is search and rescue, and there's a big difference between that and recovery operations. Can you explain what the difference is for us?
Yeah, so search and rescue, they're going to come in and they're going to do search and look for life, people still living. In an instance like this, they have a high hope that people have survived this, so they're going to do everything they can to check everywhere, talk to family, search the areas to make sure that people have not passed, and not until the point of they've checked everything will they consider it a recovery, and or they start finding a group of people that have deceased, and then obviously at that point in time when somebody is gone, they will consider that the recovery mission to bring the bodies to the coroner's office.
And unfortunately, it seems like we're seeing a lot of that going on right now in Texas. Well, Shannon, thank you again for joining us today and speaking with us, and thank you for your service.
I appreciate it, Jeff. Thank you.
To all those who put their lives on the line in service of others, military, fire, police, EMS, thank you. God bless you. Well, the big, beautiful bill is now officially the law of the land, as President Trump signed the bill into law on Friday. In a signing ceremony at the White House, the president called the passage of the bill, quote, a triumph of democracy, as it narrowly met the president's self-imposed deadline of the 4th of July after seeing significant resistance in both the House and the Senate. The bill makes President Trump's 2017 tax cuts permanent, increases funding for border security, enacts work requirements for recipients of Medicaid and food stamps, defunds Planned Parenthood for 1 year, funds the Golden Dome missile defense program, and ends taxes on tips and overtime pay. The president also said passage of the bill represents promises made, promises kept to the American people. But the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill is not sitting well with everyone. Former Doge chief Elon Musk announced the creation of a political party he called the America Party on X on Saturday. Musk, who criticized the bill for adding too much to the national debt, polled his followers on X, asking them whether they would support the creation of a third party. Those who responded supported the idea by a 2-to-1 margin. Musk says the party will serve as a centrist force and will represent the American public who are fed up with both Democrats and Republicans, and will focus on debt reduction, deregulation, and tech innovation. Despite much online discussion, Musk has so far not filed a statement of organization with the Federal Election Commission to formally establish the America Party. For our final story, the so-called world's largest time capsule was opened last weekend in Seward, Nebraska. 50 years ago, Harold Davison invited the whole nation to deposit whatever they liked into the concrete time capsule. His daughter, Trish Johnson, was on hand for the opening and acted as master of ceremonies for the event. Inside were letters and packages to family members and loved ones, cassette tapes with personal messages, pet rocks, a teal leisure suit, and even an entire yellow Chevy Vega wrapped in a plastic tarp. People came from all across the country to collect or search for personal items left to them, either by themselves or their parents. One of the attendees from Virginia received a handwritten letter from his mother and said, "It's not about what's inside of it, it's about what's inside of us." Well, that's it for now. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, comment, and engage with us so that YouTube and all the socials push it out to more viewers. Thanks for watching DFE News. News done right. See you next time.